that.
I mean, you were invited. Don't act like you didn't show up.
Dude, I
told Blanton, I said, Blanton, you've not lived until you've seen Scott in a Speedo in the swimming pool. And he was so excited. He cried himself to sleep that night. Yeah. I just want you to know that. That's on you.
I sent you a picture.
You did send me a picture. You did send me a picture.
I'm glad I'm not in that group
text. We'll put that in the show notes. Just kidding.
Hey, welcome to the Cultivator podcast. I'm here with the doctors, which are not doctors, but we like to think of ourselves as doctors.
False advertisement.
False. But man, we are so thankful that you guys would tune in, hang out, and listen and watch with us. So this is going to be a follow-up conversation from last week's podcast that we launched. So last week we put out the conversation that we had with Hugh Halter and Taylor McCall and Lance Ford. They were here last year, and man, they were talking about Brave Cities, kind of what that kingdom ecosystem looks like. And with that, we got a chance to sit down and have a conversation with them. And so we thought today would be just a great time to go back and kind of think and pull out what are the things that stood out to us and have some conversations. Because, man, that we've all gone back and listened to that conversation, and there's just so much good stuff in there. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want us to bypass and just kind of jump into this next thing without kind of sitting and asking, man, what are the things that really stood out to us from those conversations? Yeah. So you guys, I would love to hear, and I'll throw in some stuff too, but I would love to hear what are the things from that conversation that we had with Hugh and Taylor and Lance. And I kind of alluded to this. These dudes are kind of like legends within kind of the missional church movement, kind of leadership. Like these guys are just some of our heroes. We're so thankful for their friendship with us. Yeah. But man, I would just love to hear what you guys are kind of thinking of. What's stirred in you since going back and listening?
One of the things that really stirred in me, and you just mentioned it, so I think it's a good segue, is just the relationship with them. I mean, I've known Hugh for a long time from the Fringes, and just have always been impressed by him. He does not fit well into buckets. Like, he is kind of clergy, but he's not. He's always been a house builder or a work with your hands kind of guy. And if you follow him on social media, he's always posting something where he's doing something, a drywall job or whatever. And his book, Tangible Kingdom, was so instrumental in my kind of missional move because it looked at things differently. And so read that and went to a Missio conference that he put on in Austin several years ago, and just always been impressed because of his story, because of his willingness to just kind of jump in and live this out. One of the stories that's not told much about him is he and his wife had a son that had all kinds of needs. And so I really think that from the 2000s, 2010s, I don't think they slept like hardly at all because they're always afraid that, I think he had seizures. And so something was going to go wrong with that. And just to do that, like, I don't get 6 hours sleep. My family just is like, leave me alone. And so, but in the midst of that, to be able to build stuff, and it's not just once that he's done it, he did it in the Denver area, and now he's doing it in Alton. I am encouraged by just being around them, even if it is, on a podcast from a conversation a year ago. I think that there is value, and one of the things I think Scott wants to talk about in discipleship is that, but I think there's value in being around people that you admire, that you look up to, that you want to kind of do stuff that they're doing.
Well, and the same is with Lance. Lance is probably kind of my first person I got to really know and connect with in the missional church movement. And I read his book, Unleader, and it just totally messed with me in great ways. And I was going to Kansas City, and that's when he was living up there. And I just randomly, I don't know how I got his contact information. I think I maybe emailed him, text, whatever. I was like, hey man, I read your book. It's amazing. I'm going to be there. Would you want to get coffee? And he's like, yeah, dude. And ever since then, for the last 10, 12 years, we're hanging out, texting, hanging out. And so Lance has just always been a good voice to me to have to just talk about things. And so he's just been so grateful for him and his just a willingness to to give relationship.
Yeah.
And then he's always pointing. He's like, "Hey, man, you should go talk to them." And honestly, I got to know about Taylor whenever he was in Birmingham because of Lance. And Lance was like, "Hey, you should go check out them." And then Lance was like, "Hey, you should go connect with the guys at Forge, with Terry and with those guys." And Terry and Forge have been a huge part of our relationship as well. And so it's just for me, that mutuality of relationship and their willingness to just be there and engage has been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of second generation. You guys introduced me to them, and I really know them through their books, not really personally.
Yeah.
I have great respect for them, and I would say that I've read 2 books that Lance has written, and they just meant so much to me. I can't recall the name of them, but one was about leadership and how he described it. It's really upside down.
Unleader.
That's Unleader.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was so good. I used it some in discussing leadership with interns at the Wesley Foundation. So, and then Brave Cities turned on all kinds of lights for me.
Yeah.
And that book was very important in my growth and understanding. Because I'm old school. I'm just literally old school. And what that often means is I have to unlearn before I learn. And those 3 men they're legends. And the reason they're legends is because they have lots of scars.
Dang.
And you want to follow people who have scars.
Yeah, Scott, you bring up a good point, because I think that sometimes it feels like, and this might not be true, but it feels like, Justin, you and I are bringing people into our ecosystem and saying, "Hey, hang out or learn from these people," but they don't know them.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you can pick up Brave Cities and read it, and you can pick up Tangible Kingdom, even though it's 20 years, and read it. You can pick up Unleader, and Lance has got a lot of other books, and you can get a sense for their heart. Like, you don't have to hang out with them, but once you've read their stuff, you'll want to hang out with them.
And they're even better in person.
They are even better in person.
Even better in person.
But there is a place, like, it's not like you have to go on social media and say, "Hey, Hugh, my friend Justin just said we should be friends. Let's be friends." Like, there's a lot of good content in their books that you can just read and get to know them through that.
Yeah.
And so what I loved is they were here talking about Brave Cities and kind of us as Kingdom Co-op and the kind of ecosystem that kind of has emerged and developed here, which is amazing and beautiful. And every day we're like, "Thank you, Lord, but also please help, Lord. What are we doing?" And so it was so good to have them here in that conversation. And how kind of thinking back to that interview and that time with them was like, "Hey, what does it look like to be a kingdom cultivator?" And that was the question of kind of I threw out there, is like, you guys have been living this. What does it look like to be a kingdom cultivator? And that just kind of started this in the conversation. And for me, and I'll start, the first thing that Lance said is, he said that idea of the kingdom. He's like, it's we are invited to become citizens of a kingdom. Yeah. And that right there is everything. It's more than, "Hey, I go to church and I said this prayer when I was in this." It was like, no, we actually have this whole citizenship into this whole new reality. And man, that's what I think a lot of times we forget, is that we have been invited to be citizens and have a new identity that's established and rooted in the kingdom.
Well, and one of the things he said in that as well is that, like, the whole economy is different. And you think about it in worldly terms, and we're not going to get political, but like, immigration is a big issue, and I think that there's a portion of the country that is like, we're okay with immigration as long as they kind of come and follow our rules and engage in our economy. Yeah. What we are not okay with is when they come and try to bring their own stuff here. And I think that too often the followers of Jesus try to bring the world economy into the kingdom economy. Yeah. And it just doesn't operate the same. I mean, and I think that Hugh is a great example of that. Man, if you were to look at how he's survived over the years, it does not make sense. Yeah. I mean, because he rarely draws a paycheck from the church work that he does. Yeah. But he's always just been able to sustain, whether it's through putting a roof on or, painting something or whatever. Yeah. And that's a hard lesson, because we like our security, and we like to, make our bulletin posts of how much was brought in last Sunday and what our budget is and how we're meeting it. And I mean, they're just sometimes, we've been through this sometimes when we're like, okay, here's the bills and here's the checkbook for Kingdom Co-op, and they don't match up, not in the good way either. Yeah. and just to be able to kind of have that faith. I mean, I think that's an important lesson. That's an important thing to hear from multiple people, because that's a hard lesson to learn.
I think that idea of the kingdom economy, I think within that kingdom economy, there was something, and you alluded this, Scott, earlier, there's a little nuance of we actually aren't building the kingdom. And I think so often, for so long, that was a term that we use, and you have to kind of shift that a little bit and say, no, actually, I'm not building anything. It is something that God has established, set, built. But I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts on that kind of nuanced thing that stood out to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love in that podcast. One of the first things he said in that idea of that we don't build the kingdom; it's already here. One of the things he said is, if you think you're building the kingdom, you kind of get big about yourself. Mm-hmm. And man, did that ring true? I mean, personally, and also what I've observed a lot of times is that it's about. I'll hear pastors say, "My church," and I want to say, "Whose church?"
Whose church?
Anyway,
and along those lines, it's just to kind of bring the Lance. I don't know if you follow Lance on social media, you see that he's kind of angry. But like one of the things that I think, well, he's got that prophetic in him, and so he gets angry about the things that I think make Jesus mad. But one of the things that he fights out about all the time is that notion of a senior pastor. Like he is like, the Southern Baptists are fighting over what role women can or can't play, and he's like, the whole notion of a senior pastor is a bastardization of Scripture, because we have a good shepherd. Like that's what it is, a senior pastor in Jesus. And I think we get caught up in what my church is doing, and Jesus is like, no, I own this. This is my kingdom, my church.
Yeah. Well, if I was working an 8 to 5 job every day, and I had bills to pay, all of this is, all of us. But when Hugh said, you don't build it, you think about what is God up to around me, and I just join in, because the kingdom is already here. He's already at work doing his kingdom right here around us. Just locate what he's doing and then join in. Everyone can do. You don't have to go to seminary to do that. You don't have to have a certain title to do that. Everybody can do that. And the key is tuning in, being awakening yourself to what's going on around you, what the Lord's busy doing, and hearing an invitation to join in. Hugh called it, finding bread along the way. Something like that. And I loved that image.
And I think with that, and this goes into one of the first things that Taylor said, was we have to get rid of this idea between sacred and secular.
Yes.
Because I think if we're looking for bread along the way, we're looking for this very sacred, holy, got all these things. And I feel like sometimes it is just a very real thing in front of us, a real need, a real whatever else. That could be some of the bread that God's saying, here's the first piece of bread on the trail. And it could look, and if you're looking in this lens, it could look very unsacred. But I feel like that's one of the first things I feel like we have to get rid of, is this difference between sacred and secular. Because I feel like I don't know if maybe y'all can push back. I don't know if there in the new covenant with Jesus, we can kind of begin to make those distinctions. I think he makes almost all things sacred, whatever else. But like, I feel like a lot of times we try to parcel things out that aren't meant to be parceled out.
Well, so let's find hope in the fact that this is not a new problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of your wholeness stuff was taken out of Colossians and kind of what Paul puts there. And like Colossians 2 and 3 just talk about, there aren't new moon festivals. There aren't like every day is the same. Every day is holy. And so this is not a new problem. Like this is not something that we turn to the 21st century and like, oh, this is how we're going to do it. I love the conversation about discipleship where Taylor talked about being discipled by his girls. And I think that some of the inner workings of church try to try to characterize and categorize everything. And the reality is the sacredness of a common meal with your kids, of just having, and it doesn't even have to be, hey, let's open to Colossians and read it, but like something happens with Blanton and we have a conversation about it at the table. That is discipleship. That is holy. That is sacred. Yeah. Even though we're just, throwing down some chicken tacos, it's not anything special, but it's still sacred.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. I love it. Just keep going.
No, I love it. I think also just kind of as we're thinking and we're kind of all over the place with this, and I love it. But what else are the things that kind of stood out to you in that conversation?
Well, I loved how like going back to the question, what is a kingdom cultivator and how do you sustain it? I loved how you connected. To be a kingdom cultivator, you need to become clearer and clearer about who you are. You need to become the clarity of your identity, who God says you are, needs to grow and grow and grow. And then the more that happens, the better you are at being a kingdom cultivator. I loved that, and I thought, and I wanted to highlight it. I didn't know exactly how. I guess right now I am, but and then when they talked about discipleship. You brought in the idea of business, how the discipleship can happen in business. And you used this word, which I just think was very, very important, is mutuality, that it's not something I'm doing to someone or God's using me to do to someone. It's something he's doing to the both of us. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I loved that image. Yeah. I think, and like now, I want to highlight that whenever you decide or you find yourself discipling someone, please be aware that it's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. I loved that.
Yeah. A lot of that comes from Jesse Cruikshank, who's another one of the people that we've been inspired by. She just talks about, like, she does a lot of outdoors type stuff. And man, when you're outdoors hiking with somebody, it's not just I'm showing you, like, you got to watch out for me and we watch out for each other. Yeah. I think that's the notion of life on life discipleship, not, I love that they talk in there where Hugh says something about how many hours of Bible study have we done and people aren't being transformed. Yeah. It is that kind of just life on life.
And I think that's something like for us, big time is like, man, discipleship is more than just going and meeting with somebody for an hour once a week and memorizing scripture and talking about the things you're struggling with. Those are all great. But like, if that's what you've reduced discipleship to, like you've missed it. Mm-hmm. You've missed the element of, no, what does it look like when somebody that's experiencing homelessness walks into your business and you have to like make some hard decisions in that moment? Like that for me is like some real discipleship.
Absolutely.
Or, hey, what it's like when you're around when my girls come in and they're losing their mind about something and I'm having to have a conversation like so that you don't experience that once a week meeting at a coffee shop. Right. Like you experience what life looks like, and I'm trying to follow Jesus and then there's going to be times where I'm looking at you, like that mutuality and like seeing it. And so I think we have reduced discipleship even so much to, it has to be this program, this thing, this whatever else. And I think it really is, it is a life on life of us following Jesus together. And there's going to be times and seasons where I'm in somebody's life that I have maybe a little bit further along in certain areas. But then also, if I'm so blinded and I think I got my crap together that I'm not aware that, Jesus is working in their life too. Yeah. And what can they be teaching me as well?
Yeah. One of the things that those guys model, it wasn't talked about is that this is not what we're talking about. Cultivating, being a kingdom cultivator is messy. It's just messy. Yeah. But here's the struggle is that I think by and large the church culture, at least in America, has bought into efficiency. Mm-hmm. And so, it is it's a once a week meeting that lasts an hour and there's this particular things that we cover and that's it. That's all it is because we're looking for efficiency. We resist and refuse and reject messy. Mm-hmm. But the real thing is messy.
Yeah, it is. And I think, honestly, for us and kind of us living this thing out in Lubbock in West Texas, man, this whole thing is is messy. It is not very cookie cutter. It's not like we don't have a weekly worship service that you come to. We don't have this. And so for a lot of people that have come around, it's been hard. It's hard because we aren't efficient. We aren't whatever, but I can look around and I can see an amazing fruit of what the Lord's doing. But Dave and I talked about this last week, is it's even hard for us because all of our metrics, all of our learning, all of our understanding is still based in this model and understanding of what church is or should be and what discipleship is and should be. And
which is a corporate model.
It is.
Yeah. And anything corporate is built on efficiency.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
One of the conversations in there that just hit me, and I hope it hit you, Justin, because I know that I love the interaction between, Taylor saying it's a 4-year process and Hugh thinking it's a 20-year process. I felt like Justin always thinks it's a 3-month process when it's probably a 3-year process. But, one of the things that I think is hard about just life in general, but ministry especially, is where they're talking about where Jesus says to the broader disciples, gives them the freedom to go. This is hard, and then he says, in what I think is really one of the most vulnerable conversations Jesus has in the scriptures, will you also leave? When he says that to the 12, and they say, where are we going to go? You have the words of life. And Taylor landed on that to say, like, this is hard and we want to give up a lot. But where else are we going to go? Right. I mean, I spent a Sunday this past week at a traditional Methodist church in West Texas preaching, and it was great. But it's not. I don't know. Not that Jesus wasn't there. I'm not saying that at all. But like there is something about kingdom and about this. Where else are we going to go?
Exactly. Yeah. It is. I mean, I have. I don't know if any of my friends actually watch this or listen to this, but I mean, I have a lot of friends in town that are part on staff of great churches and big churches and all this, and those are great, man. We've moved past any sense of being against or bashing the prevailing model of church. Like that, it is what it is, and it does what it does. But there is something stirring in us that's longing for something. I'll say more different because I spent over 20 years in the prevailing model, and I worked in mega churches, small churches, all the things, and there's beautiful, wonderful, great things happening, and I'm never going to say there's not, because there is, but I do feel and sense, and this is why I'm just going to be honest. I want a lot of the people in our ecosystem to watch this, because there is something God's doing around the country, and I would say even around the world, that is revolving around these ideas of ecosystems. Right? That it's involving businesses. It's involving groups meeting in homes. It's involving specific causes, right? And there's this connection or network. And we're not the only ones in Lubbock that are living this out and figuring this out. There's places. So for me, in this conversation with them, a lot of it was letting people know that, like, hey, this wasn't just an idea that Scott, Justin, and Dave came up with. Like, let's try this. No, look, this is something that I see and sense and feel like God is stirring and doing something around the country that looks a little bit different. Not a little, it looks a lot different than what a lot of people have been used to. Sorry, I guess on a little tangent.
No, and I think that's valuable. So, let's go tangent. So I've already watched the movie because I got stuck in the book, but I'm reading the book Project Hail Mary, right? And the basic thing is there's this thing that's going on with the sun, that these little things are eating the sun, and so our temperature is going to lower. And they talk about what's going to happen is that there are going to be creatures in the seas that die, and then that's going to ultimately lead to us dying. And I think with ecosystems, that's a good image because there's so many things going on that we don't know about. Yeah. It is Jesus's examples are very earthy, right? The sower went out to sow, and he talks about soils. Well, that's earthy. We live in West Texas. It's an earthy world. I'm out in far West Texas, and we're having conversations about rain and having conversations about, cattle disease. I'm like, all of this stuff that's just very earthy. Yeah. And we don't see all the stuff that's going on. I think one of the things that we struggle with in our conversations is seeing the breadth of the ecosystem. Like, it's not just about a Sunday celebration. It's not just about a Wednesday night at your house. It's not about a Sabbath Saturday. It's not about a discipleship formal thing. Like, it's the whole ecosystem. And the stuff that happens in this building affects that ecosystem. The stuff that happens in the Stice home affects that ecosystem. When Scott, has an eye that goes haywire on him, that affects the ecosystem. Like, that's just how it is. When there are weather changes, things like that, the physical ecosystem gets affected. And I love the image of ecosystem because it broadens out our understanding of what's going on.
And I love it. And I think that conversation with those guys and those guys even being here last year helped us. And even having other people read Brave City's book helps bring some context understanding. Because a lot of things that they brought language to a lot of things that we had been trying to figure out and do and say. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we've been trying to figure this out and do this. But then there's some language of that they've built around that. And now we've kind of taken it, and like this idea of cultivator is in the midst of all of this.
Yeah, the one like instructive thing that I would want to leave with a conversation I would be having with someone around this topic would be around the word be aware. Awareness is like God is working. He's at work. Jesus, he's still at work. Jesus said his Father's still working. He's right around you, right where you are. You don't have to wait for a meeting on a certain day of the week for God to be at work. He's, so ramp up your awareness. Start looking, ramp up your curiosity. What is he doing around me right now, and how can I join in? That's probably the piece of gold that I put in my pocket from those three guys. And this is like anyone. You don't, like I said, you don't have to have a title. You don't have to have a certain kind of education. Anyone can pick that up, put it in your pocket, and just start watching, waiting, being just as aware as you can in the moment to become a part of a kingdom cultivator. Being one. Anyway. You hear what I'm saying?
I love that. And I think, so this is something we're trying to do is in conversations to come back down to a very practical thing. Like hopefully there's at least some kind of boots in the ground practical thing that we can walk away each time we have a conversation. I think that right there is kind of where I think would be a good place to say, hey, man, that would be a very practical invitation or even challenge to us this next week of where can we start being aware of the kingdom around us? And that whereas there's a breadcrumb that maybe looks super whatever, but like there's something to that. Maybe that's the breadcrumb that Jesus is putting in front of me to step towards.
Yeah.
What would be some good maybe questions, prayers, thoughts?
Oh, here's the question Scott asks all the time. What is Jesus doing in your life right now? Like you get it, and I hate that question, and I always make up an answer. No, it's fine. I lie to you every time. But like it's real easy for us to look back into the past and go, well, this and this. But like that is an important question because not that this is the image you're using, but I come to the image of manna. Manna showed up today, and it was different tomorrow. If you didn't get it, it wasn't there. And so, what is Jesus doing, saying, or revealing himself today? Not yesterday, not last week, not tomorrow. It's today. That manna thing of just going out and looking for it every day.
And I think that right there pushes us back to that place of intimacy, of dependency, of like, this following Jesus is an everyday thing. I can't be looking back yesterday. I can't be looking forward. And this is, I'm probably more focused on what's going, whatever, it or both. But like, what does it look like today? I love that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've landed on three words that I'm trying to live every day. What does it mean to be intimate with the Father? What am I doing? How am I turning my awareness towards being intimate with the Father? How am I learning how to be dependent? How am I growing and being dependent on the Spirit? And then how am I letting Jesus love sacrificially through me?
I love that.
And if those are my hooks for the day. And I just watch for that. I watch what is the Lord presenting to me as giving me a chance of intimacy, dependency, or sacrificial love. Right this moment, where is that happening? Right now. and just watch for it all the time, 24/7. That to me is living in the moment with Him.
I think that right there is like a great place just to like wrap this up. And coming from the conversation with those guys, and then even this of, man, our hope and our prayer is that this is helping be a resource for us to all continue to be healthy and whole in Christ and making a kingdom difference where we live, work, learn, and play. And I think those three hooks, those three questions will continue to drive us to living this life as a kingdom cultivator. And so thank you. Thank you guys for hanging out, listening. Man, once again, yeah, thank you. Our hope and our prayers is this is useful. And here's the thing. We're going to keep doing it because we freaking love it and it's awesome. But no, I feel like this is great stuff. And so, man, share it with people. Check it out. But once again, thank you guys for hanging out with us today.